What's up, Patriots? Welcome back to O'Connor's Quick Strike. I'm John O'Connor, and if you missed Monday's debut episode, you'd better catch up because we don't slow down for anybody. And don't forget to hit that like, follow, or subscribe button. It really helps out the algorithm. Plus, it should make you feel good in your heart that you're helping out another human. Also, check out yesterday's drop on O'Connor's Right Stand. We did a deep dive into the political violence of the left. It's Wednesday, September 24th. And the last 3 days have been absolutely nuts, which you will understand why exactly in the last story. While the mainstream media obsesses over nonsense, real victories are happening for conservatives. Real evidence is dropping, and real lunacy is being exposed on the left. This is episode 2 of your lightning-fast breakdown of the stories that matter most. It's just me giving you the unfiltered truth about what's actually happening since Monday morning. Whether it is a story being overlooked by mainstream media, or maybe it's just a different take on a more well-known story. So, buckle up, because this is O'Connor's Quick Strike.
3.
Let's get started with a story that should be front-page news everywhere, but it's getting buried by the mainstream media. A New Jersey man just obtained nearly 1 million documents from Detroit's 2020 election through a FOIA lawsuit, Freedom of Information Act. And what's in these documents is exactly what we've been saying happened all along. A Mr. Miller hired a top FOIA attorney and successfully sued Detroit and Wayne County for election records before the 22-month federal retention period expired. What he got is a treasure trove of evidence that the 2020 election in Detroit was an absolute disaster. We're talking about actual absentee ballots, signed envelopes, ballot applications, voter file records, and total tapes from Detroit precincts, including the ones that were out of balance. But here's the bombshell. These documents prove that the infamous pizza box incident at the TCF Center was part of a coordinated effort to lock out Republican poll watchers. You remember what happened. On election night, Republican poll watchers were told to take a break while officials prepared military ballots. But Democrat poll watchers somehow knew to stay inside and order pizza for delivery. When Republicans tried to return, they found themselves locked out. When they started chanting, "Stop the count," the Democrats inside used their pizza boxes to cover the windows so nobody could see what was happening on the inside. This wasn't some spontaneous reaction. This was planned. The Gateway Pundit, working with election integrity experts, has already started reviewing these documents, and what they're finding confirms everything we suspected about Detroit's 2020 election. For years, Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson and Detroit election officials claimed everything was above board. When questions were raised about the pizza box incident, they dismissed it as conspiracy theories. But now we have the receipts. Literally. These documents show systemic problems with Detroit's election process, out-of-balance precincts, questionable absentee ballot procedures, and a deliberate effort to exclude Republican oversight at the most crucial moment of the count. This is exactly the kind of evidence we needed to prove what really happened in 2020. Not theories, not speculation, actual government documents showing how the process was manipulated. And it's not just Detroit. Similar patterns emerged in other key swing cities. Atlanta, Philadelphia, Milwaukee. The same playbook was used everywhere. Create chaos, exclude Republican observers, and count ballots without proper oversight. The mainstream media, of course, is completely ignoring this story. They spent 4 years telling us that questioning the 2020 election was dangerous to democracy. But when actual evidence emerges of election irregularities, suddenly they are not interested in investigating. That's because they know what we're going to find. They know that when all the documents are reviewed, when all the evidence is analyzed, it's going to confirm that the 2020 election was not conducted fairly in key swing states. This Detroit document dump is just the beginning. Similar FOIA requests are pending in other swing states. And every time we get access to the actual records, we find more evidence of the same patterns. The truth is coming out, slowly, But it's coming out, and no amount of media gaslighting can stop it.
2.
Now, let's talk about the massive vindication of Trump's trade policies that happened this week. According to Monday's Breitbart Business Digest, Wall Street has completely reversed course on tariffs. Back in April, 80% of professional investors told Bank of America's Global Fund Manager survey that trade wars trigger global recession was their biggest market risk. That was the highest concentration of fear in the survey's 15-year history. By September, that fear has almost completely vanished. Only 12% still name trade war as their top worry. This is one of the fastest reversals in investor sentiment on record, and it proves what Trump has been saying all along. The experts were wrong about tariffs. Remember what they told us. Trump's tariffs would crash the economy. They'd trigger massive retaliation from other countries. We'd have a global trade war that would devastate American workers. None of that happened. Instead, what we got was exactly what Trump promised. Other countries making deals with us instead of retaliating. The numbers are stunning. Tariffs are generating about $165 billion this year, roughly 0.5% of GDP. By 2026, the effective tariff rate is expected to climb to 14%, raising revenues closer to 1.4% of GDP. Over the next decade, Bank of America economists project tariffs will reduce the primary deficit by $3.5 trillion, with another $600 to $700 billion saved in interest costs. But here's the real important part. Instead of triggering a trade war, Trump's tariffs have led to what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jamieson Greer call global trade reorganization. Countries aren't retaliating with their own tariffs. They're coming to the negotiating table and making deals. This is exactly what Trump said would happen during his first term. He said tariffs weren't about punishment. They were about leverage. Use them to get better deals for America. Then the revenue is just a bonus. The establishment said he was crazy. They said tariffs were taxes on American consumers. They said other countries would never negotiate under pressure. They were wrong about everything. And now Wall Street is quietly admitting it. The great tariff panic of 2025 is officially over. Investors have realized that Trump's trade strategy, executed by Bessent and Greer, has reorganized global commerce without triggering the destructive trade war they predicted. This is a massive vindication of Trump's economic philosophy. For decades, the elite consensus was that any move toward tariff leverage would invite disaster. Trump has now proven that the opposite is true. When you negotiate from strength, when you are willing to use economic leverage, other countries respect that and make deals. When you negotiate from weakness and beg other countries to be fair, they take advantage of you. It's the same principle Trump applied to foreign policy. Peace through strength works. Economic strength through tariff works. The establishment hated it because it challenged the globalist orthodoxy, but the results speak for themselves.
1.
Finally, let's talk about the most insane story I've seen in years. After Trump and RFK's Monday announcement linking Tylenol use during pregnancy to autism risk, liberal women across the country have been posting videos of themselves chugging Tylenol while pregnant. I'm not making this up. These women are literally filming themselves taking extra acetaminophen during pregnancy as some kind of resistance to Trump. They're calling it an attack on women and claiming they're being controlled. Think about that for a second. Trump suggests pregnant women should be cautious about a medication that might harm their unborn child, and their response is to take more of it to own Trump in some way? This is Trump derangement syndrome at its absolute peak. These women care more about opposing Trump than protecting their own babies. Now, let's be clear about what Trump actually said Monday. He announced that the FDA would be updating labels on acetaminophen, that's Tylenol, to warn about possible links to autism when used during pregnancy. He repeatedly told pregnant women, "Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. Fight like hell not to take it." Trump was backed up by RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz, now head of Medicare and Medicaid. They cited research suggesting prenatal acetaminophen exposure may increase risks of neurodevelopment disorders. The medical establishment went ballistic, of course. They always do when someone raises questions or concerns about their orthodoxy. But here's the thing. There are studies raising concerns about this. A 2025 meta-analysis from researchers at Harvard and Mount Sinai found prenatal acetaminophen exposure may increase autism and ADHD risk. But instead of saying, let's be cautious while we study this more, the left's response was to encourage pregnant women to take more Tylenol. Liberal women on social media started posting videos with captions like, "This is an attack on women, and I'll take whatever I want during my pregnancy." Some were literally filming themselves popping Tylenol pills while pregnant, hashtagging it resistance. This isn't resistance, this is insanity. And it perfectly encapsulates the modern left. They're so consumed with hatred for Trump that they literally risk their children's health to make a political point. What's even more disturbing is that health agencies around the world immediately pushed back on Trump's announcement. The European Medicines Agency said they found no link between acetaminophen and autism. The WHO called the evidence inconsistent. But here's what they're not telling you. These are the same agencies that told us COVID came from a wet market, that masks don't work. Then masks do work. Then you need 2 masks. These are the same experts who've been wrong about everything for the last 5 years. Meanwhile, countries like Sweden have been studying this issue for years. A 2024 study in JAMA looked at 2.5 million Swedish children and found some concerning patterns, even if they couldn't prove direct causation. The point isn't whether acetaminophen definitely causes autism. The point is that when there's any question about something that could harm children, shouldn't we err on the side of caution? Apparently not if it means agreeing with Trump. These liberal women would rather risk their baby's neurological development than admit Trump might have a point about being careful with medications during pregnancy. And that tells you everything you need to know about the state of the modern left. Their hatred for Trump is literally stronger than their maternal instincts. 3 stories, 3 examples of what happens when you challenge the establishment narrative. The 2020 election evidence keeps piling up, despite years of being told we couldn't question it. Detroit's election was a mess, and now we have the documents to prove it. The truth always comes out eventually. Trump's tariff policy, which every expert said would destroy the economy, is instead generating massive revenue while forcing other countries to negotiate fairer deals. The experts were wrong. Trump was right. And Wall Street is quietly admitting it. And liberal women are so consumed with Trump hatred that they risk their baby's health to make a political point. That's not resistance. That's mental illness brought on by years of media programming. This is what happens when you're willing to challenge conventional wisdom. When you're willing to ask questions the establishment doesn't want asked. When you're willing to try solutions the experts won't work. Sometimes the experts are wrong. Sometimes the conventional wisdom is garbage. Sometimes the people calling you crazy are the ones who've lost touch with reality. That's what we're seeing play out in real time. The establishment narrative is crumbling on multiple fronts. The evidence is mounting. The results are speaking for themselves. And the American people are waking up to the fact that they've been lied to about a lot of things. That's what's happened since Monday. 3 stories that prove we're not just fighting back anymore. We're winning, and they hate us for it. Don't forget to check out yesterday's show on O'Connor's Right Stand. This is O'Connor's Quick Strike. I'm John O'Connor. See you Friday, Patriots.